नमस्कार और आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत है नई दिल्ली के इंदिरा गांधी इंडोर स्टेडियम से, जो मुख्य आयोजन स्थल है भारत अफ्रीका शिखर सम्मेलन का। भारत अफ्रीका सहयोग की दिशा में वर्तमान सम्मेलन के माध्यम से भविष्य की नींव रखी जा रही है। एक ऐसी दुनिया की कल्पना को साकार करने की दिशा में पहल, जो दुनिया की 2 अरब 30 करोड़ आबादी के बीच और बेहतर साझेदारी और समझदारी की हो। आज सम्मेलन का महत्वपूर्ण दिन है। भारत अफ्रीकी मंच शिखर सम्मेलन की शुरुआत 26 अक्टूबर से हो चुकी है। आज शिखर सम्मेलन को लेकर बड़ी उत्सुकता है। इस तीसरे भारत अफ्रीका शिखर सम्मेलन में सभी देशों के नेता कुछ ही देर में एक साथ मंच को साझा करेंगे। इस सम्मेलन में कुल 54 अफ्रीकी देश हिस्सा ले रहे हैं। आज के कार्यक्रम का यह पहला हिस्सा होगा जिसमें इन सभी देशों के प्रमुख मंच को साझा करेंगे और आज दोपहर बाद इस सम्मेलन का समापन सत्र होगा। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी सभी अफ्रीकी देशों के प्रमुखों का स्वागत करेंगे। सम्मेलन में व्यापार, ऊर्जा, आतंकवाद और संयुक्त राष्ट्र में सुधार के मुद्दे बातचीत में मुख्य रूप से शामिल रहेंगे।
Good morning and greetings from the Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium, New Delhi, where the 3rd India-Africa Forum Summit is being held. 54 African countries are participating in this year's summit, the highest representation in the summit so far. Heads of state from the African nations will arrive here at the IG Stadium shortly and will be received by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And post the inaugural session, there will be a series of statements from participating nations and bilateral discussions. The closing or valedictory session will be held this evening itself at 4 p.m. The stadium absolutely ready. A very high-tech inaugural and conduct of the summit it's going to be today. The India-Africa Forum Summit is the official platform for African-Indian relations. Many issues are addressed during the summit, the bilateral talks and the build-up to the summit, including the agriculture sector, trade, industry and investment, peace and security, promotion of good governance in civil society, information and communication technology. In fact, the first such summit was held from the 4th of April to the 8th of April 2008 in New Delhi, India. And it was the first such meeting between the heads of state and government of India and 14 countries at that time of Africa chosen by the African Union.
मुख्य आयोजन स्थल इंदिरा गांधी इंडोर स्टेडियम 102 एकड़ में फैला ये इंडोर स्टेडियम का पूरा परिसर विशाल, भव्य और आज के इस शिखर सम्मेलन के लिए सज धज कर तैयार।
As a part of the preparations for this summit, there is also wonderful showcasing an exhibition which is in the Velodrome, which is very close to the stadium, which was inaugurated by the Trade Commissioner of the AU together with the Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, General V.K. Singh. This is a very interesting exhibition which focuses on themes of infrastructure, agriculture, technology and innovation, power and renewable energy and healthcare. In fact, on seeing this exhibition, one recognizes how different Indian companies with expertise have been put together in these designated areas and how this expertise could meet the requirements of African countries. Very, very innovative displays are there. There is things on the healthcare side, biotechnology side. A lot of Indian companies have come together with innovative products, and we keep saying that we need to send out that which is the best. We need to send out that which is the most appropriate for the particular country. And this is just the right mix of Indian innovation and expertise that could be very useful in taking this partnership forward.
राजधानी दिल्ली में पिछले 2-3 दिन में मौसम सर्द होता हुआ, लेकिन इधर इस सम्मेलन की कूटनीतिक गहमा गहमी, ये भारत अफ्रीका मंच शिखर सम्मेलन भारत और अफ्रीका के प्राचीन रिश्ते रहे हैं। भारत और अफ्रीका की कुल आबादी दुनिया की 1/3 आबादी है। आकार में अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप भारत से 10 गुना बड़ा है। अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप में संस्कृति, भाषा, अर्थव्यवस्था और शासन तंत्र की दृष्टि से काफी विविधता है। इसलिए अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप के होने के बावजूद कई मायनों में यहां के अफ्रीकी देश एक दूसरे से बहुत अलग भी हैं। ऐसा पहली बार हो रहा है जब अपने महाद्वीप यानी अफ्रीका से बाहर इतने बड़े स्तर पर 54 देशों के राष्ट्राध्यक्ष इस तरह के अफ्रीकी सम्मेलन में शामिल हो रहे हैं। इससे पहले भारत अफ्रीका के बीच 2 सम्मेलन नई दिल्ली में सन 2008 और एडिस अबाबा में 2011 में हुए थे।
So there's a huge presence of the foreign media, of dignitaries, national and international over here at the IG Stadium. So India and Africa, the 3 C's that totally unite us at different levels, which are culture, community and color. There will also be a short audio-visual presentation which will actually showcase the 3 C's and what binds these nations, our nations, together. And this is the largest ever turnout of African leaders in India. We have leaders including South African President Jacob Zuma, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe and the Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari. They will also be here.
कई चर्चित और जाने पहचाने अफ्रीकी नेता इस सम्मेलन में शिरकत कर रहे हैं। शिखर वार्ता के साथ साथ विदेश मंत्रियों की भी बैठकें चल रही हैं। बदलते समय में विकास के पथ पर चलने के लिए नए रिश्ते, नई मित्रता की शुरुआत, भारत अफ्रीका संबंधों में एक नई पहल।
As Ambassador Shyam Sarang has said, in recognition of the growing importance of India-Africa ties and prospects for much closer cooperation, it was decided to convene regular India-Africa Forum summits. And these summits have laid the foundation of a new architecture for a structured interaction and cooperation between India and our African partners in the 21st century. As shared with you earlier, the first such summit was held in April 2008, New Delhi, the second in May 2011 at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and the third summit is now being held in New Delhi in October 2015. In fact, the first summit had adopted the historic Africa-India framework for cooperation, which sought to foster beneficial cooperation in a very comprehensive format, including economic and political cooperation, cooperation in science and technology, research and development, information and communication technology, and cooperation in social development and capacity building. So no area really of nation building left out, and thus India-Africa development cooperation truly reflects the philosophy of the modern concept of a development compact, which works at 5 different levels that include trade and investment, technology, skills upgradation, line of credit and concessional grants. All are being addressed. There have been a large number of bilateral conversations. People have met together, groups have met together, and all these 5 tiers are being addressed. The framework for India-Africa cooperation is a unique initiative in the history of South-South cooperation, placing development cooperation within a much broader context of overall relations between India and African countries. It looks at development not merely in economic terms, but as a process that is sustained only if located within a larger political, social and intellectual environment. And that is so very critical, because it is only through collaboration that the whole world can move forward. India-Africa development cooperation has been conceived in a unique 3-tiered pattern, including bilateral, regional and pan-African cooperation.
अफ्रीका के देशों को साथ लेकर चलने की पहल और उस दिशा में भारत अफ्रीका मंच शिखर सम्मेलन और इंदिरा गांधी इंडोर स्टेडियम पर आगमन प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी का.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives here at the Indira Gandhi Stadium, where he will be receiving the heads of state from African nations who've come here to participate in the 3rd India-Africa Forum Summit, New Delhi.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी अफ्रीकी देशों के राष्ट्राध्यक्षों का स्वागत करेंगे. उनका आगमन हुआ है यहां. सम्मेलन में कई विषयों पर लगातार बातचीत हो रही है और आज भी वो जारी रहेगी और शिखर स्तर पर ये वार्ता होगी. अफ्रीकी देशों के साथ आतंकवाद, कृषि, तकनीक, प्रशासन, स्वास्थ्य, सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी, इन सभी क्षेत्रों में भारत ने अपनी मदद देने का आश्वासन दिया है और साथ ही अपेक्षा है कि दुनिया को एक बेहतर दुनिया बनाने के लिए भारत अफ्रीकी सहयोग और बढ़ेगा और उसी दिशा में ये सम्मेलन.
So today, as we look at India-Africa partnership and ties moving towards sustainable development, the Forum for Indian Development Cooperation (FIDC) and RIS, the Research and Information System for Developing Countries, have played a critical role in organizing the summit here this year. As Professor Sachin Chaturvedi has said, the intersection of African resurgence in India's growing economy and global profile has opened up new avenues for deepening the multifaceted development partnership between the two emerging growth poles of the world. And it is here clear to see that cooperation and collaboration, particularly South-South cooperation as we see, is scripted majorly through these summits. Increasingly, there is an alignment of India's growth agenda and Africa's vision 2063, which is set to unleash new possibilities of partnering in key areas which are central to unfolding African resurgence, including education, health, capacity building and sustainable development, all goals that India is also looking at.
भारत अफ्रीकी देशों में अब ज्यादा निवेश करना चाहता है और वहां चल रही परियोजनाओं को ज्यादा कर्ज देने की दिशा में भी अपनी रजामंदी दिखा रहा है. कई ऐसे विषय हैं जिनके लिए भारत अपना सहयोग बढ़ा रहा है और बढ़ाना चाहता है। प्रधानमंत्री का स्वागत किया विदेश मंत्री सुषमा स्वराज और विदेश राज्य मंत्री जनरल वी.के. सिंह ने।
Minister of External Affairs, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj and General V.K. Singh here receiving Prime Minister Narendra Modi, giving him a little brief of the location and the program to follow.
भारत अफ्रीका सम्मेलन 2015 भारत में आयोजित होने वाला अब तक का सबसे बड़ा कूटनीतिक आयोजन है। दो अरब 30 करोड़ की आबादी के प्रतिनिधि राजनीतिक, सामरिक और आर्थिक साझेदारी को सशक्त करके गरीबी से जूझ रहे इस क्षेत्र में चहुमुखी प्रगति की नई इबारत लिखना चाहते हैं।
India already has a close association with many African nations, and one of them is South Africa. Historic partnership between the two countries. In fact, as the South African Foreign Minister said, India and South Africa, the only two countries which share Mahatma with them. And in fact, she says that South Africa would have been struggling with inequality if they had not learned the concept of satyagraha from Mahatma Gandhi. Both India and South Africa need to work together closely, not only on bilateral issues or regional affairs, but also on important global matters. In fact, the government of India has been actively pursuing programs relating to empowerment of women, education of the girl child. While most countries have these as a part of their constitution, as a part of their policy documents, the government of India is actively pursuing these in its policy implementation programs.
और ये बिल्कुल सही है कि दुनिया की 1/3 आबादी यानी भारत और अफ्रीका जब प्रगति करेंगे तभी दुनिया आगे बढ़ेगी, विश्व प्रगति करेगा। और ये बड़ा ही अच्छा संयोग है कि इस सम्मेलन का आयोजन उस वर्ष में किया गया है जब महात्मा गांधी अफ्रीका से स्वदेश लौटे थे।
So when we look at equity, progress and empowerment, along with social inclusion and cultural diversity, economic empowerment is very critical. And the Made in India program could be so mutually beneficial to India as well as to its partners in Africa. So there is the availability of raw materials in countries in Africa, and Indian technology is really cutting edge today. So technology coupled with raw material availability can do wonders not only for Make in India but also for Make in Africa. And both India and the countries in Africa combining together to address the problem of food security. The suitability of Indian technology for the defense industry also in Africa is tremendous.
भारत और अफ्रीकी देशों की दोस्ती बहुत पुरानी है और बापू ने दक्षिण अफ्रीका में अपने प्रवास के दौरान अश्वेतों के हक के लिए पूरी प्रतिबद्धता से लड़ाई लड़ी। इसीलिए अफ्रीकी देश भारत की ओर, बापू की ओर बड़ी कृतज्ञता के भाव से देखते हैं। और आज के संदर्भ में भारत अफ्रीकी देशों में व्यापार बढ़ाने की दिशा में, आर्थिक गतिविधियां बढ़ाने की दिशा में और प्रगति के हर क्षेत्र में आसमान छूने की दिशा में लगातार प्रयास जारी हैं। भारत अफ्रीका में बहुत बड़ा निवेशक है। करीब $30 अरब का भारतीय निवेश अफ्रीका में है। भारत की कई कंपनियां अफ्रीका में बड़े स्तर पर कारोबार कर रही हैं और धीरे धीरे ये कारोबार फैल रहा है। और रिश्ते प्रगाढ़ होते हुए।
So as a build-up to today's summit, as we mentioned earlier, there have been a number of bilateral meetings of our Minister of External Affairs, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, with other foreign ministers from the African nations and leaders. Meetings with Zimbabwe, Malawi, Cameroon, Cape Verde, all have taken place. And the common thread through all of them is about how these countries are looking forward and looking up to India to really support them in their process for growth. When we look at Zimbabwe, there is a common thread which is running about how India has committed resources to support development programs in various countries in Africa.
हर व्यक्ति, हर राष्ट्र और हर महाद्वीप में कभी न कभी ऐसा होता है कि एक ऐसा समय आता है जब बड़ा बदलाव होता है, और वो समय अब है जब भारत अफ्रीका के साथ मिलकर प्रगति की नई ऊंचाइयां छूना चाहता है।
So there is great diversity which is visible within the nations, but there is great unity of need, requirement, resources and intent. In fact, friendship is seen even internationally and in terms of international relations as something very, very different today. It is considered an all-season friendship, a friendship as varied from good times to bad times. Friendship that is not dependent only on a particular regime, but on the country and its people. The agriculture sector, energy sector, education, all these are areas of priority, even for India. And when we talk of Indian cooperation, there is a lot more that we can also gain and nourish our diversity from Africa.
अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप आबादी की दृष्टि से दूसरे स्थान पर है। ऐसा अनुमान है कि अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप में लगभग 1000 भाषाएं बोली जाती हैं। दुनिया की सबसे लंबी नदी अफ्रीका में ही है, नील नदी। सबसे बड़ा रेगिस्तान सहारा, जिसका आकार लगभग संयुक्त राज्य अमेरिका जैसा है, वो अफ्रीका में ही है।
So today we see meeting at the heads of state level, and we see dignitaries arriving here at the IG Stadium. We also need to see that what we see is just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of deliberations, mission-to-mission cooperations at the country level all have taken place, thereby leading to this summit.
अफ्रीका प्राकृतिक संसाधनों से समृद्ध महाद्वीप है। इस सम्मेलन में कई भारतीय कंपनियों के प्रतिनिधि भी हिस्सा ले रहे हैं। भारतीय कंपनियों ने कोयला, लोहा और मैंगनीज खदानों के कार्य में भी काफी रुचि दिखाई है, और इस सम्मेलन से ये बात और रेखांकित होती हुई कि आने वाले वर्षों में, आने वाले समय में परस्पर सहयोग और ज्यादा बढ़ेगा।
It is at this summit that we foreground and celebrate various dimensions of the India-Africa partnership, which is pivoted around capacity building, sustainable development and training of Africa's most precious resource, over 1 billion people of the continent. And today, as New Delhi hosts the third India-Africa Forum Summit, this multi-dimensional partnership is set to scale new heights in the days to come, with profound impact for not just over 2 billion people of India and Africa, but for the world at large.
दरअसल इस सम्मेलन को हम भारत अफ्रीकी संबंधों का एक बहुत बड़ा उत्सव भी कह सकते हैं। ये उत्सव संबंधों को एक नई दिशा और नई ऊंचाइयां देता हुआ, जाहिर सी बात है आज के दौर में, आज के समय में वाणिज्यिक रिश्तों का महत्व बहुत अधिक है और भारत की भी इच्छा है कि अफ्रीका के बाजार में भारत को और भी स्थान मिले। अफ्रीकी देशों के प्रतिनिधि, हमारे मेहमान
So the dignitaries, VIPs and heads of state from the African nations have started arriving. We have a wonderful representation here, and many of these heads of state would also be making statements. We have representation from all the way from Swaziland to the Republic of Benin to South Africa. In fact, we have His Majesty King Mswati III, the King of Swaziland, His Majesty King Mohammed VI, the King of Morocco, His Excellency Mr. Idris Deby Itno, the President of the Republic of Chad, His Excellency Mr. Jacob G. Zuma, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Ould Abdelaziz, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. In fact, Sanjeev, the list is long, celebrated, glorious, a wonderful indication of the goodwill that India enjoys as a partner, as a friend, as a leader, and as a collaborator.
बिल्कुल गौरा, ये बहुत बड़ा सम्मेलन, 54 अफ्रीकी देशों के राष्ट्राध्यक्ष, प्रतिनिधि, मंत्री इस सम्मेलन में भाग ले रहे हैं। एक साथ ये सभी मंच साझा करेंगे। इससे पहले कि अगर हम बात करते हैं तो चीन, जापान और अमेरिका ने अफ्रीकी देशों के सम्मेलन आयोजित किए हैं। चीन में 2006 में जो सम्मेलन हुआ उसमें 48 देशों ने भाग लिया। जापान में 2013 में जो सम्मेलन हुआ उसमें 49 देशों ने, और अमेरिका में 2014 में जो सम्मेलन हुआ उसमें 50 देशों ने शिरकत की थी। उस दृष्टि से ये सबसे बड़ा सम्मेलन जो अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप के बाहर हो रहा है, 54 देशों के राष्ट्राध्यक्ष इसमें शिरकत कर रहे हैं। इसके अलावा कई और देशों के इसमें सदस्य हैं, प्रतिनिधि हैं जो विशेष आमंत्रित सदस्य के तौर पर यहां मौजूद।
India and Africa have a historic relationship, and this has grown into a sustainable partnership. From our struggle against colonialism and diversity, or actually the discrimination of diversity, we've emerged to jointly accept the challenges of a globalizing world, whether we have to deal with threats to international peace and security, the threat from international terrorism, or the scourge of poverty. We believe that India and Africa traverse the same path, share the same values, and cherish the same dreams. In fact, there is a vision for a partnership with Africa for the 21st century. And this vision will take us beyond our strong bilateral relationships, our close ties with regional economic communities, and develop a new paradigm of cooperation, which will take into account Africa's own aspirations for pan-African institutions and development programs. And given our wide-ranging cooperation and developing partnerships ranging from human resource development, health, capacity building, ICT utilization, all of which are perhaps symbolized in the Pan-African e-network project, we hope to take this experience to a new level.
पुराने रिश्ते भारत के अफ्रीकी देशों से रहे हैं। कई अफ्रीकी देश हैं जहां पुराने समय से भारतीय वहां बसे हुए हैं। अफ्रीकी देशों में कई ऐसे उद्योग धंधे हैं जो भारतीय कंपनियां चला रही हैं और भारतीय उद्यमी उसका प्रबंधन करते हैं।
The participation and the format of the summit have been decided in consultation with the African Union Commission and the permanent representatives of the member states. And this is in fact just the third summit, so the beginning of a process which is going to carry on for many years. There are chairs of the regional economic communities and their secretaries general and the founding members of any PAD initiative, besides the current and preceding chairs of the African Union. And it is strongly believed that this representative group, which sets the tone, the tenor and the context for these deliberations, would have an appropriate regional balance which will provide the impetus for a fulsome discussion on how India could enhance its engagement with Africa in the future, keeping in view Indian capacities and African aspirations.
भारत और अफ्रीकी देशों के रिश्ते सम्मेलन के कारण इस समय फोकस में है और सबसे बड़ी चीज ये है कि इस तरह के सम्मेलन से जो आपसी सहयोग, सूझबूझ और समझ के नए रास्ते खुलते हैं। अफ्रीकी देशों के साथ अपने रिश्तों को और मजबूत, उनको ठोस बनाने की ये पहल वाणिज्यिक रिश्तों का महत्व आज के संदर्भ में और भी अधिक महत्वपूर्ण होता हुआ। एक समय था जब हमारे व्यापार का जो दृष्टिकोण है या फोकस है वो कई और देशों तक ज्यादा सीमित था। भारत का अफ्रीकी संघ के देशों के साथ सन 1990 तक व्यापारिक कारोबार सिर्फ $1 अरब तक ही था, जो भारत के कुल विदेशी व्यापार का सिर्फ 2% था। साल 2005 से लेकर साल 2010 तक दो तरफा व्यापार का आंकड़ा $40 अरब को पार कर गया है और अब भारत चाहता है कि ये द्विपक्षीय व्यापार सन 2020 तक बढ़कर $200 अरब तक किया जाए।
As you can see, there is a strong sense of affinity between the people of the African nations and India, between the African leaders and Indian leaders. The strong sense of political affinity and solidarity between India and Africa dates back to several decades of the 20th century, when the people of India and Africa were engaged in an unremitting struggle to gain independence from colonial rule and to become holders of their own destiny. Mahatma Gandhi forged satyagraha, or non-violent resistance to colonial rule, racial discrimination and oppression during his sojourn in South Africa. And after India gained its independence in 1947, it became a leading voice in the United Nations to promote decolonization. The first UN resolution against discrimination in South Africa was sponsored by India. And even though in the early years, India itself was a country with limited resources, it nevertheless considered it its internationalist duty to share whatever it had to promote development in the newly independent African countries. African countries also became an influential voice at the Afro-Asian Summit convened in Bandung in Indonesia in 1955, and this led to their participation subsequently in the non-aligned movement initiated by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, President Tito of Yugoslavia, and President Nasser of Egypt in 1961. And without the active participation of independent African countries, the developing world, represented by the non-aligned movement, would never have become the powerful force for international peace, cooperation and development that it evolved into in the decade of the 60s and the 70s of the previous century. And the importance of the movement should be gauged from the fact that it provided a powerful antidote to a world polarized between East and West, ideologically divided into opposing camps and under the growing threat of a nuclear war. And it is this sense of solidarity, mutual trust and confidence born in the difficult days of the Cold War which continues to drive India-Africa cooperation to this day, enabling both sides to expand and enrich their cooperation bilaterally, regionally and multilaterally.
सम्मेलन में अफ्रीकी देशों के प्रतिनिधियों का लगातार आगमन इंदिरा गांधी इंडोर स्टेडियम पर हो रहा है। भारत अफ्रीकी संबंधों की नई इबारत लिखी जा रही है इस सम्मेलन के माध्यम से। सहयोग, साझेदारी, समझदारी, हाथ मिलते हैं, दिल मिलता है, साथ मिलता है और आगे बढ़ने के लिए संकल्प होता है। भारत अफ्रीका मिलकर इतनी बड़ी शक्ति बनते हैं कि जब वो विकास करेंगे, प्रगति करेंगे, तो दुनिया की तस्वीर क्यों बेहतर नहीं होगी?
That's right, Sanjeev. That's because today, India and Africa are the most rapidly growing developing economies in the world. In fact, Africa is the continent of the future, and India is a major emerging economy. As the global economy continues to recover slowly, maybe from the long-term repercussions of the global financial and economic crisis of the 2007-2008 meltdown, and with signs that China may now be entering a phase of lower growth rates and more domestic-oriented economic strategies, India and Africa together may well become the engines of growth for the entire world. India can contribute its capital, skills and technological capabilities to sustain Africa's growth. And Africa in turn can support India's growth through mutually beneficial resource partnerships and easier access to each other's expanding markets. Africa is already one of India's fastest growing markets and investment destinations. and this trend is likely to continue.
भारतीय कंपनियां दक्षिण अफ्रीकी कंपनियों से यूरेनियम और परमाणु प्रौद्योगिकी प्राप्त करने की राह देख रही हैं, तो दूसरी ओर अफ्रीकी कंपनियां एग्रो प्रोसेसिंग और कोल्ड चेन, पर्यटन, होटल और रिटेल क्षेत्र में भारतीय कंपनियों के साथ सहयोग कर रही हैं। इसके अलावा अफ्रीकी बैंकों, बीमा और वित्तीय सेवा कंपनियों ने भारत में अपने आने का रास्ता बनाने और उपस्थिति बढ़ाने के लिए भारत केंद्रित रणनीतियां तैयार की हैं। केन्या की राजधानी नैरोबी हो या फिर साउथ अफ्रीका के प्रमुख शहर, इन सभी में भारतीय कंपनियों के बड़े विशाल विज्ञापनों को मुख्य चौराहों पर लगा हुआ देखा जा सकता है। और जैसा हम सब जानते हैं, भारत जिस तरह से प्रगति कर रहा है, विकास की ओर तेजी से बढ़ रहा है, भारत की ऊर्जा क्षेत्र में भी तेजी से जरूरतें बढ़ रही हैं और वहां भी अफ्रीका का एक अहम स्थान है। नाइजीरिया उन देशों में शामिल है जिनसे भारत सर्वाधिक कच्चे तेल का आयात कर रहा है। वर्ष 2012-13 में अफ्रीका से भारत को 3.1 करोड़ टन कच्चे तेल की आपूर्ति हुई, जबकि सिर्फ नाइजीरिया से ही 1.23 करोड़ टन तेल का आयात किया गया।
So as we look at the story of economic growth and development across nations, the challenges are many, but many of them are common to the countries, and that's why they need to be fought with cooperation, tackled with collaboration. Our world is still struggling with debilitating poverty, disease, and lack of opportunities for youth who are entering the labor market in large numbers. Resources available from traditional donors belonging to the OECD and from multilateral financial institutions are diminishing, precisely at a time when the current United Nations sessions has adopted the ambitious SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals. Development cooperation among developing countries themselves, the sharing of development experiences among them, and ensuring that their development trajectories follow an ecologically sustainable path. These are new challenges confronting our world today. Whether or not the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, are successfully achieved, that will critically depend upon what path countries like India and those in Africa take as they grow their economies. And that is critical, because these are still countries who have yet to take flight in many areas of growth and development. And the right path, the right flight methodology for its millions of people will have world impact. And that's why the path is critical. It is in this context that the India-Africa Development Cooperation assumes an importance beyond the bilateral relations with individual African countries and regionally with Africa as a whole through the African Union and of course several sub-regional African organizations. This cooperation is based as it is on the mutuality of interests, with its emphasis on alignment with local priorities, and that is critical, local priorities, and on capacity building. And this could well become the template on which the SDGs could be pursued globally, particularly now with India having given its commitment for compliance and achieving of SDGs. And this summit is going to be closely watched internationally for this reason.
बिल्कुल गौरव, बेहद महत्वपूर्ण शिखर सम्मेलन भारत और अफ्रीकी देशों का। अफ्रीकी देशों की अर्थव्यवस्था एक बदलाव के दौर से गुजर रही है, उस बदलाव के दौर से जिससे भारत लगभग 2-2.5 दशक पहले गुजर चुका है। अफ्रीकी देशों से रिश्तों के मामले में जरा इतिहास के पन्नों को पलटें तो ये जानना भी बड़ा दिलचस्प होगा कि अंग्रेज 1896 से 1901 के बीच लगभग 32,000 मजदूरों को यहां से कई अफ्रीकी देशों को ले गए। इनमें अधिकतर पंजाब से ये लोग थे। केन्या, तंजानिया और युगांडा में इन्होंने रेल पटरियों को बिछाने का काम किया। पूर्वी अफ्रीका का सारा रेल नेटवर्क पंजाब के लोगों ने तैयार किया था और लगभग उसी दौर में गुजरात से भी लोगों ने अफ्रीकी देशों में जाना प्रारंभ कर दिया और वो वहां व्यापार करने के लिए जाने लगे। रेलवे नेटवर्क का काम पूरा होने के बाद उनमें से कई श्रमिक वहीं बस गए और अब तो इन अफ्रीकी देशों के हर छोटे बड़े शहर में भारतवंशी भी हैं, उनके पूजा स्थल भी हैं। कई भारतवंशी पूर्वी अफ्रीका में अपने स्कूल और कॉलेज भी चला रहे हैं। भारत और अफ्रीकी संबंध आज के नहीं हैं, आज तो और प्रगाढ़ हो रहे हैं।
Today, when we talk of development, the term is not a standalone. It's always coupled with sustainable development. Because sustainability is so critical. And the sustainability also means the environment in today's context. The environment which invariably tends to take backstage, tends to move back when we look at development. So it's neither a problem of just one country, it's the problem across the world because we are all linked at the hip. What we do today affects generations across the world tomorrow. African countries and India are extraordinarily rich in biodiversity, with species of rare flora and fauna which are threatened both by overexploitation as well as by climate change. And we need strong global rules to safeguard our biodiversity. And this requires coordinated positions in the deliberations under the Biodiversity Convention. We share a common interest in a robust global climate change regime, which enables us to develop an ecologically sustainable manner. We will be the worst affected by the consequences of climate change and must therefore work closely together in the ongoing multilateral negotiations on climate change, which will of course culminate in the Paris Climate Summit.
भारत अफ्रीका शिखर सम्मेलन 2015 दोस्ती की, सहयोग की और बढ़ती हुई साझेदारी और समझदारी की ये तस्वीरें हर दिशा में, चाहे वो आर्थिक क्षेत्र हो, शिक्षा हो, स्वास्थ्य हो, प्रौद्योगिकी हो, हर क्षेत्र में भारत और अफ्रीकी देश मिलकर और बेहतर दुनिया बनाने के लिए, विकास के लिए, प्रगति के लिए आगे बढ़ने को कटिबद्ध प्रतिबद्ध। भारत और अफ्रीका के बीच पिछले 15 वर्षों में व्यापार में 20 गुना वृद्धि हुई है। अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप के 41 देशों में 137 परियोजनाएं चल रही हैं। भारत ने शिक्षा और स्वास्थ्य प्रयोजनों के लिए एक अखिल अफ्रीकी ई नेटवर्क स्थापित किया है, जो लगभग 48 अफ्रीकी देशों में सफलतापूर्वक काम कर रहा है।
One of the great success stories of this partnership is the e-network project, and what really sets this project apart is its sheer impact on transforming lives of ordinary people living across the resource-rich African continent. Under this tele-education component of the network, more than 2,000 students from Africa have been enrolled in different top-ranking universities in India, and a host of disciplines like MBA, Master in Finance, Control, PG Diploma in IT, MSc in IT, and Bachelor in Finance and Investment Analysis. And technology is that which is going to bridge gaps, going to bring greater outreach, going to keep costs in check. Outreach, costs, accessibility, availability, all these are critical, because it is not through movement alone, physical movement alone, that empowerment can happen. Where physical movement is difficult or impaired, technology takes over, and that's the beauty of this project.
दोनों पक्षों के बीच क्षमता निर्माण के क्षेत्र में सहयोग सबसे अहम स्तंभों में से एक है। वर्ष 2008 में पहली और वर्ष 2011 में दूसरी शिखर बैठक के बीच भारत ने 15,000 छात्रवृत्तियां प्रदान की। दूसरी शिखर बैठक से लेकर आज तक भारत की ओर से 25,000 छात्रवृत्तियां प्रदान की गई हैं। भारत की ये ताकत अफ्रीका की जरूरत है। और इस बैठक में भारत और अफ्रीकी देशों के बीच समानता पर आधारित स्वाभाविक साझेदारी के महत्व को विश्व के सामने मजबूती से पेश किया जा रहा है।
The e-network project is moving incrementally towards the fulfillment of its stated goals and objectives at a time of renewed optimism about the emergence of a global South. In many ways, the narratives of a rising India and the unfolding African resurgence are intersecting at multiple points, opening up new avenues for scaling up the India-Africa partnership by using the power of innovation, technology, and ideas. In an interview to Africa Quarterly, Ghana's then President John Kufuru envisaged a marriage of India's expertise and Africa's resources.
इस आयोजन के माध्यम से राजनीतिक, आर्थिक, सामरिक दृष्टि से भारत और अफ्रीका के 2 अरब 30 करोड़ लोगों के बीच साझेदारी और मजबूत होती हुई और बढ़ती हुई। आकार में अफ्रीका भारत से 10 गुना बड़ा और अधिक विविधतापूर्ण है। अफ्रीका संस्कृति, जाति, भाषा, अर्थव्यवस्था और शासन तंत्र की दृष्टि से बहुत विविधताओं वाला महाद्वीप है। विश्व की 1/3 आबादी अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप में बसती है और इसका एक बड़ा हिस्सा अभी विकास से दूर है। इस क्षेत्र का विकास वैश्विक विकास की गति एकदम से बढ़ाने में कारगर साबित होगा। अफ्रीका एक ऐसा महाद्वीप है जिसे आज बड़े पैमाने पर आर्थिक उत्थान का प्रतीक माना जा रहा है।
In the initial days of Indian industrialization, the small and medium enterprises, SMEs, have played a very, very silent but a pivotal role in developing infrastructure and industry in the country. And today, in the expanding compass of the India-Africa Development and Economic Partnership, the flowering of the small and medium enterprises sector is poised to play the role of a catalyst for transforming the economic landscape of a resurgent global south. The small and medium-scale industrial sector indeed remains the backbone of the economy of any country, whether developed or developing. The growth of the economy could be augmented by accelerating and enhancing the manufacturing base with the incorporation of appropriate innovative technologies. And the most beautiful part about SMEs is that they integrate technology with being labor intensive, because providing employment opportunities is also critical for countries like India and the African nations. India has made incredible strides in economic and social development and is poised to realize even faster growth in the years to come because of its ability to generate and use innovative technologies for SMEs. And India's experience in increasing or enhancing its SME sector has valuable lessons for Africa's quest for broad-basing its economy and moving up the value chain. And this is a long shot of the inside of the Indira Gandhi Stadium. All the flags standing in unity here at the summit venue.
इस शिखर सम्मेलन का मुख्य आयोजन स्थल इंदिरा गांधी इंडोर स्टेडियम। जहां अब से कुछ ही देर में अफ्रीकी देशों के राष्ट्राध्यक्ष मंच को साझा करेंगे। बहुत उत्साह और उत्सुकता इस सम्मेलन को लेकर प्रतिनिधियों में, मेहमानों में और जाहिर सी बात है मेजबानों में भी। अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप से बाहर सबसे बड़ा अफ्रीकी देशों का ये शिखर सम्मेलन विश्व की तेजी से विकास करने वाली कुछ अर्थव्यवस्थाएं इस अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप में हैं।
Today, as the summit will unfold and conversations will happen, there will be the great view ahead, looking forward, looking ahead. And as we look ahead, the potential of scaling up the use of eco-friendly technologies for sustainable construction in the African continent is huge. Achieving impacts, though, requires long-term engagement for continued support, capacity building for sustainability, and partnerships for local anchoring. Technology transfer initiatives to countries in Africa offer an opportunity to further strengthen regional capacities. And the strengthening of regional capacities in green construction will play a force multiplier effect in transforming the urban landscape of Africa by blending the needs of growth with basic principles of sustainable development through equity and innovation.
इस सम्मेलन में पहली बार समुद्री अर्थव्यवस्था और समुद्री सुरक्षा पर भी चर्चा हो रही है। कृषि के क्षेत्र में अनेक विषयों के साथ ऊर्जा, स्वास्थ्य, आधारभूत ढांचा, प्रौद्योगिकी, नवान्वेषण, मानव संसाधन विकास, शिक्षा, कौशल विकास, स्वच्छ ऊर्जा, हाइड्रोकार्बन और आतंकवाद से मुकाबले पर सहयोग बढ़ाने के बारे में लगातार विचार विमर्श जारी है। सहयोग के, परस्पर साझेदारी के नए अध्याय इन संबंधों में जुड़ते हुए अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप जो संसाधनों की दृष्टि से समृद्ध है, उधर भारत दुनिया की निगाहें जिस पर लगी हैं, विकास के पथ पर तेजी से बढ़ता हुआ भारत और अफ्रीकी देशों का यह सम्मेलन, अफ्रीकी महाद्वीप आबादी की दृष्टि से अगर कहा जाए तो युवाओं का महाद्वीप है। महाद्वीप की 65% आबादी की आयु 35 साल से कम है। इसी प्रकार भारत में भी आधी आबादी 35 वर्ष से कम है। युवाओं का देश भारत और युवाओं का महाद्वीप अफ्रीका, युवा शक्ति और ऊर्जा का ये मिलन, ये सम्मेलन।
Absolutely. To look at human resource as not only a resource but a source of energy, a source that needs to be nourished with the right attitude, values, technology, empowerment and decision making skills.
संबंधों में नई ऊर्जा, नई गर्माहट और जोश का नया संचार, बदलते परिवेश में। और कार्यक्रम अब यहां मुख्य आयोजन स्थल इंडोर स्टेडियम से।
We will now take the group photograph with the heads of delegations. We're waiting for the President of South Africa to arrive for the photograph. May I request all the other officials present in the hall to please be seated and keep the aisles free for movement. All accompanying officials of the delegations are requested to please be seated and keep the aisles free for movement. May I now request Their Excellencies, heads of delegations, to take their respective seats. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you all to please be seated. We're about to begin our cultural program. May I request those who are standing in the aisles to please clear the aisles for free movement. A vibrant India and a resurgent Africa have a vision of a close partnership. A partnership that is anchored in the principles of equality, mutual respect, and mutual benefit. Today we are here to develop a new paradigm of cooperation which takes into account our joint aspirations. Indian and African governments will give a new thrust to our age-old partnership and redefine the road ahead in tune with the times we live in. We now commence with the inaugural session of the third India-Africa Forum Summit with a cultural kaleidoscope. Our opening is an invocation that seeks auspicious blessings for this landmark occasion. Our shared history and common future come alive in this showcase of a rich cultural heritage, interspersed by a glimpse of brand new India. Resurgent, pulsating, modern, and driven by technology. Leading into the finale, blending music, dance, costumes, and choreography with multimedia projection to celebrate the historic India-Africa partnership.
कराग्रे वसते लक्ष्मीः करमध्ये सरस्वती।
एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निरंकार।
I am the Limpopo, giver of life, Alpha without Omega. I am Africa.
Kiale boha समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा
The cultural extravaganza that you experienced epitomizes the rich tapestry of skill, innovation, passion, tradition, and the spirit of the India-Africa partnership. We hope you enjoyed the true reflection of our cultural vibrancies. May I now request the External Affairs Minister of India, Her Excellency, Madam Sushma Swaraj, to come on stage for the welcome remarks.
Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, Honorable the co-chair of this summit and the President of African Union, the President of Zimbabwe, His Excellency Robert Mugabe, the Honorable Chairperson of African Union Commission, Her Excellency Mrs. Zuma, Honorable Heads of States and Heads of Governments from Africa, Honorable Ministers from Africa, Excellencies. As I stand before all of you, I'm reminded of an African proverb which says, "A family is like a forest. When you are outside, it is dense. When you are inside, you see that every tree has its place." Today, in a very real sense, we are with our African family. This gathering of African heads of states and heads of governments is like a family reunion. And I can see how the diversity of Africa matches our own, how every flag from Africa has its own special place. So, on behalf of 1.25 billion Indians, let me welcome you all most warmly to New Delhi. Excellencies, there was a time when India and Africa were one landmass, united by geology. Today, we are united by our common goal for progress, prosperity, and peace around the world. We are linked by the Indian Ocean, and we are joined together by the 2.7 million strong Indian diaspora in Africa, which is contributing actively to the economic development of its adopted homeland. India has always stood for and stood with Africa. Ours is a relationship forged in the crucible of the shared struggle against imperialism, colonialism, racial discrimination, and apartheid. That era is now behind us. But the solidarity engendered by that shared struggle continues. Our modern partnership rests on the pillars of economic growth, development, and empowerment, and is a consolidation of our engagement at various levels, bilateral, regional, and pan-African. I'm confident that the third India-Africa Forum Summit will chart a bold new course for our future cooperation. Excellencies, I had started my remarks with an African proverb. I will also end with one. It says, "If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." We want to travel far on the path of development, and we want to travel together with our African friends and partners in the true spirit of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Thank you. May I now invite the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, to deliver his inaugural address to this distinguished summit. Thank you.
Your Majesties, Chairperson of the African Union and my co-chairman, His Excellency Robert Mugabe, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Madam Dlamini Zuma, Excellencies, the fabric of this world is richer because of the 54 sovereign flags of Africa. Today, their brilliant colors have made Delhi the most special space in the world. To the 41 heads of the state and government and the other eminent leaders, to the hundreds of senior officials, business leaders, and journalists from Africa, I say this: we are deeply, deeply honored by your presence today. To our visitors from the land where history began, humanity grew, and new hope rises. From the desert of the north, where the glory of human civilization shines through the shifting sands of time. From the south, where the consensus of our age has been forced. From Mahatma Gandhi to Albert Luthuli to Nelson Mandela. From the shore of Atlantic that has been at history's tragic crossroads and now at the frontiers of many successes. From our neighbors on the resurgent East Coast, from Africa's heart, where nature is generous and culture is rich, and from the sparkling gems of island states, a very warm embrace of welcome and friendship from India. Today, it is not just a meeting of India and Africa. Today, the dreams of 1/3 of humanity have come together under the one roof. Today, the heartbeat of 1.25 billion Indians and 1.25 billion Africans are in rhythm. We are among the world's oldest civilizations. We are each a vibrant mosaic of languages, religions, and cultures. Our histories have intersected since ages. Once united by geography, we are now linked by the Indian Ocean. The currents of the mighty ocean have nurtured the ties of kinship, commerce, and culture through centuries. Generations of Indians and Africans have traveled to each other's land in search of their destiny or by the force of circumstances. Either way, we have enriched each other and strengthened our ties. We have lived in the long shadow of colonialism, and we have fought for our liberty and our dignity. We have struggled for opportunity and also for justice, which is the African wisdom described is the prime condition of humanity. We have spoken in one voice in the world, and we have formed a partnership of prosperity among ourselves. We have stood together under blue helmets to keep peace, and we have fought together against hunger and disease. And as we look to the future, there is something precious that unites us. It is our youth. 2/3 of India and 2/3 of Africa is under the age of 35 years. And if the future belongs to the youth, then this century is ours to shape and build. Excellencies, Africa is already on that path. We are all familiar with Africa's ancient achievements. Now, it is modern styles are catching the attention of the world. The continent is more settled and stable. African nations are coming together to take responsibility for the development, peace, and security. African struggles and sacrifices are upholding democracy, combating extremism, and empowering women. Women now constitute around 20% of the elected members of parliament in Africa. To one who has played a role in that, President Sirleaf, I extend our best wishes on your birthday today. Africa's economic growth has gathered momentum and has a more diversified base. African initiatives are replacing old fault lines with new bridges of regional economic integration. We see many successful examples of economic reforms, infrastructure development, and sustainable use of resources. There are turning a deep economies into dynamic ones. 400,000 new businesses were registered in Africa in 2013, and mobile telephone now reaches 95% of the population in many places. Africa is now joining the global mainstream of innovation. The mobile banking of M-Pesa, the healthcare innovation of Made Africa, or the agriculture innovation of Agri-Manager, and Kilimo Salama are using mobile and digital technology to transform lives in Africa. We see strong measures that radically improving healthcare, education, and agriculture. Primary school enrollment in Africa now exceeds 90%. And across its magnificent landscape, Africa is setting standards in wildlife conservation and ecotourism. Africa's sports, art, and music delight the entire world. Yes, Africa, like the rest of the developing world, has its development challenges. And like others in the world, it has its own concerns of security and stability, especially from terrorism and extremism. But I have confidence in African leadership and the African people to rise to those challenges. Excellencies, for the past 6 decades, so much of our independent journeys have been together. Now, so much of India's development priorities and Africa's lofty vision for its future are aligned. Today, Africa and India are two bright spots of hope and opportunities in the global economy. India is honored to be a development partner of Africa. It is a partnership beyond strategic concern and economic benefits. It is from the emotional bonds we share and the solidarity we feel for each other. In less than a decade, our trade has more than doubled to over $70 billion. India is now a major source of business investments in Africa. Today, 34 African countries enjoy duty-free access to the Indian market. African energy helps run the engine of the Indian economy. It is the resources are powering our industries, and African prosperity offers growing market for Indian products. India has committed $7.4 billion in concessional credit and $1.2 billion in grant since the first India-Africa summit in 2008. It is creating 100 capacity building institutions and developing infrastructure, public transport, clean energy, irrigation, agriculture, and manufacturing capacity across Africa. In the last 3 years alone, nearly 25,000 young Africans have been trained and educated in India. They are the 25,000 new links between us. Excellencies, there are times when we have not done as well as you have wanted us to. There have been occasions when we have not been as attentive as we should be. There are commitments we have not fulfilled as quickly as we should have. But you have always embraced India with warmth and without judgment. You have rejoiced in our success and taken pride in our achievements. And you have stood for us in the world. This is the strength of our partnership and our friendship. And as we travel on the road ahead, we will do so with the wisdom of our experience and the benefit of your guidance. We will raise the level of our support for your vision of a prosperous, integrated, and united Africa that is a major partner of the world. We will help connect Africa from Cairo to Cape Town, from Maracas to Mombasa. Help develop your infrastructure, power and irrigation. Help add value to your resources in Africa and set up industrial and information technology parks. Excellencies, as the great Nigerian Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka instituted, human entity remains in the primary asset in overall development. Our approach is based on the same belief that the best partnership is one that develops human capital and institution that equips and empowers a nation to have the freedom to make its own choices and shoulder the responsibility for its own progress. It also opens doors to opportunities for the youth. So, development of human capital in every walk of life will be at the heart of our partnership. We will open our doors more. We will expand teleeducation, and we will continue to build institutions in Africa. The Egyptian Nobel Prize winning writer Najib Mahfouz said, "Science brings people together with the light of its ideas and prods us towards a better future." There can be no better expression of the ability of science to unify people and advance progress. So technology will be a strong foundation of our partnership. It will help develop Africa's agriculture sector. Africa has 60% of the world's arable land reserve and just 10% of the global output. Agriculture in Africa can drive the continent's march to prosperity and also support global food security. India's expertise in healthcare and affordable medicines can offer new hope in the fight against many diseases and give a newborn a better chance to survive. We will also collaborate to develop Indian and African treasures of traditional knowledge and medicines. We will make available our space assets and technology. We will use the possibilities of digital technology to transform development, public services, governance, disaster responses, resource management, and quality of life. We will expand and extend the Pan-Africa e-network conceived by late President APJ Abdul Kalam, which links 48 African countries to India and to each other. This will also help set up your Pan-Africa Virtual University. We will work to reduce digital divide within Africa and between Africa and rest of the world. We will cooperate for sustainable development of blue economy that will become important future drivers of our prosperity. For me, blue economy is a part of a larger blue revolution to reclaim our blue skies and blue waters as we move on the path of clean development. Excellencies, when the sun sets, tens of millions of homes in India and Africa become dark. We want to light up lives of our people and power their future. But we want to do it in a way that the snow on Kilimanjaro does not disappear. The glacier that feeds river Ganges does not retreat. And our islands are not doomed. No one has done less to contribute to global warming than India and Africa. No one can be more conscious of climate change than Indians and Africans. This is because we are the inheritors of nature's most precious gifts and of traditions that respect them the most. And our lives remain most connected to Mother Earth. We are each making enormous efforts with our modest resources to combat climate change. For India, 175 gigawatts of additional renewable energy capacity by 2022 and reduction in emission intensity by 33 to 35% by 2030 are just two aspects of our efforts. We will also deepen India-Africa partnership on clean energy, sustainable habitats, public transport, and climate-resilient agriculture. But it is also true that the excess of few cannot become the burden for many. So, when the world meets in Paris in December, we look to see a comprehensive and concrete outcome that is based on the well-established principle in the UN Convention on Climate Change. We will all do our part for it, but we also want to see a genuine global public partnership that makes clean energy affordable, provides finance and technology to developing countries to access it, and the means to adapt to the impact of climate change. I also invite you to join an alliance of solar-rich countries that I have proposed to launch in Paris on November 30 at the time of COP21 meeting. Our goal is to make solar energy an integral part of our life and reach it to the most unconnected villages and communities. India and Africa also seek a global trading regime that serves our development goals and improves our trade prospects. When we meet at Nairobi, ministerial of the WTO in December, we must ensure that the Doha Development Agenda of 2001 is not close, achieving these fundamental objectives. We should also achieve a permanent solution on public stockholding for food security and special safeguard mechanism in agriculture for the developing countries. Excellencies, this is a milestone year when we are setting the agenda for our future and celebrating the 70th anniversary of the United Nations. The world is undergoing political, economic, technological, and security transition on a scale and speed rarely seen in recent history. Yet, our global institutions reflect the circumstances of the century that we left behind, not the one we are in today. These institutions have served us well, but unless they adjust to the changing world, they risk becoming irrelevant. We cannot say what will replace them in an uncertain future, but we might have a more fragmented world that is less capable to dealing with the challenges of our era. That is why India advocates reform in global institutions. This is a world of free nations and awakened aspirations. Our institution cannot be representative of our world if they do not give voice to Africa, which is more than a quarter of UN members, or the world's largest democracy with 1/6 of humanity. That is why India and Africa must speak in one voice for reform of the United Nations, including its Security Council. Excellencies, today, in many parts of the world, the light of a bright future flickers in the storm of violence and instability. When terror snaps on the streets and beaches, and in malls and schools of Africa, we feel your pain at our own. And we see the links that unite us against this threat. We also see that when our oceans are no longer safe for trade, we all suffer together. And when nations are caught in conflict within, no one around remains untouched. And we know that our cyber networks brings opportunity but also carry huge risk. So, when it comes to security, distance no longer insulates us from each other. That's why we wish to deepen our cooperation in maritime security and hydrography, and countering terrorism and extremism, and why we must have a UN comprehensive convention on international terrorism. We will also provide support for Africa Union's peacekeeping efforts, and we will train African peacekeepers here and in Africa. We must also have a stronger voice in decisions on UN peacekeeping missions. Excellencies, from connecting lives to collaborating for our prosperity, from keeping our people safe to advantage our global interests, the agenda of our partnership stretches across the vast territory of our linked aspirations. To add strength to our partnership, India will offer concessional credit of $10 billion over the next 5 years. This will be in addition to our ongoing credit program. We will also offer a grant assistance of $600 million. This will include an India-Africa Development Fund of $100 million and an India-Africa Health Fund of $10 million. It will also include 50,000 scholarship in India over the next 5 years, and it will support the expansion of the Pan-Africa e-network and institutions of skilling, training, and learning across Africa. Excellencies, if this century is going to be one in which all humans have a life of opportunity, equality, and dignity, stand in peace with each other, and live in balance with nature, then India and Africa must rise together. We will work together from the memory of our common struggles and the tide of our collective hopes, from the richness of our heritage and the commitment to our planet, from the place to our people and the faith in our future, from the generosity of the African saying that a small home, that a small home the small home can hold 100 friends, from the spirit of India's ancient belief, Santaha Swayam Parhite Nihita Biyogaha, that great souls are always making the initiatives to do good to others. From the inspirations of Mandela's call to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others, today we pledge to work together with our steps in rhythm and our voices in harmony. This is not a new journey, not a new beginning, but this is a new promise of a great future for an ancient relationship. Your presence here today, Your Majesties and Excellencies, is the strongest proof of our resolve and our commitment. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister of India for his opening statement. May I now request His Excellency, Mr. Robert Gabriel Mugabe, the President of Zimbabwe and the Chair of the African Union, to address the summit.
Our co-chair of the summit, Right Honorable Narendra Modi, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Majesty, the King of Swaziland, King Mswati, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. I would like to express my appreciation to the Right Honorable Mr. Narendra Doordarshan for having extended to me and to us of Africa an invitation to be with the people of India today in celebrating not just our oneness, but also our great desire to be one, to be united, to be of the same road of those marching to progress. My appreciation also goes to the government and people of India for the warm welcome extended to us since our arrival in this beautiful city. Ladies and gentlemen, I come as chairperson of the African Union and also as the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe. We are indeed delighted that this important summit is finally taking place after it had been postponed because of the Ebola epidemic that was threatening to ravage some parts of Africa. It is heartening that we have now gathered here a clear testimony of the combined successful efforts by the health experts in the affected region and the governments of those regions indeed. Governments of the continent, as well as the entire world, which joined with us in Africa, who had been affected by this malady, in order to eradicate this scourge. I understand it's now eradicated. Ladies and gentlemen, relations between India and Africa have a long and distinguished historical foundation. They go back thousands of years to the days when Indian traders, aided by the seasonal monsoon winds, sailed to the east coast of Africa to engage in lucrative trade. The African continent, and indeed my own country, Zimbabwe, provided the subcontinent with the mangrove poles, elephant tusks, gold, and gemstones, among other products. Later on, during the colonial period, there was an influx of Indian immigrants brought to Africa to work on the railways in East Africa, at the sugar and other plantations in Mauritius, Madagascar, and Southern Africa. These form the present bulk of the Indian diaspora in Africa and have been a critical link of trade between the continent and the Indian subcontinent. With this background, it is therefore not surprising that both Africa and India have seen it fit to revive this strategic partnership that has blossomed from that rich foundation. And of course, Honorable Prime Minister, you made reference to the geological oneness, the physical oneness of our continents which existed once upon a time, and only to be followed, but that by the geological separation that took place, to create in between space for the peaceful flow of waters we now call the Indian Ocean. You will also recall that at the second summit of the Indo-Africa Forum, held in Addis Ababa in May 2011, we agreed on the need to further consolidate our strategic partnership, which is anchored on our long years of fraternal relationship and our common approach against colonialism and similar needs for growth and development. It is also important to note that this relationship cherishes the principles of equality, mutual respect, and mutual benefit, and also acknowledges the commitments by both sides to the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of states. You were the predecessor to us in the struggle for independence. When that son of India first resided in our territory, in that part of South Africa they called Natal. It was Indira Gandhi, it was Mahatma Gandhi. And from the soils of Africa, the sacred soils of Africa, he decided to get back to India and there to wage a struggle, to see the birth of a great, great, great party, the India Congress, that party which saw the likes of Nehru join it, worked through a revolutionary way that mobilized the people of India and reminded that India belonged to India, to the Indians, and not to the British. That they were therefore masters of their own destiny. They should therefore unite and fight, but not spill blood, but use passive methods, passive resistance to gain their territory. And while those who colonized India in defense of certainly what was not their right to rule others, resorted to violence and to all inhuman methods to prevent this oneness of the people of India succeeding. That did not succeed. Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru led the people, showed the people that they should sacrifice themselves, undergo that humiliation. At the end of the day, they will succeed. And indeed, in the latter part of the 40s, 1947, they succeeded. And India once again regained its right, God-given right, inherent right to rule itself. That lesson was learned by us. South Africa, I was at college there then, through its youth league, also, as it followed the objectives of the African National Congress, adopted passive resistance. But it was the butchering that took place, the inhuman, violent attacks on those who participated in passive resistance that revolted the spirit of the Africans and said to them, no, passive resistance is only producing more deaths, more violence, more imprisonments. Let us be more effective. But it had been the stepping stone to what followed later, the armed struggle. The armed struggle born of our unity in 1963 with the creation of liberation committees to be headquartered in Tanzania, and that to superintend the decolonization of Africa through the various regional armed groups. We had to arm ourselves under the Liberation Committee created by the OAU in 1963-64. And so, what you had gained through passive resistance and could not gain through passive resistance, we gained through the armed struggle. Our forefathers shall always be revered for having thought of a unity with a punch, a unity that said the enemy will not listen. If you say, go away, merely go away, this is our country. Because in Africa, he used violence. So, if he used violence, you also must use violence to kick him out of Africa. So we succeeded. You had succeeded. We have succeeded. But the story of unity of our continents did not emerge immediately. In the context in which the United Nations had been formed on the basis that there shall be those who call themselves permanent members, as they claimed to have originated the organization, and the others who followed later and joined. So we have remained underdogs at the United Nations, where we should have been treated on equal terms as human beings equal to others. But no, that has not been the case. Our territory had been vandalized, our rights vandalized in the past, but those who had done it had not repented. Even as we gained our independence, there was no honor given us, and still there is no honor being given us. We are still underdogs at the United Nations. We thank you. We thank you, India, for the continued support, the support rendered to Africa towards the infrastructure development. The United States $5 billion worth of lines of credit to help us to achieve our developmental goals, and a further $700 million towards new institutions and training programs. These are gifts very highly appreciated by us. They have not come from those who have robbed us and deprived us of our humanity. Once upon a time, they dug our gold, our minerals. Perhaps some of them still do, but no, they don't honor us to that extent. Having said this, I would like to underline the need for a robust evaluation and follow-up mechanism, this to ensure the effective implementation of projects and programs agreed to between us. Let us give ourselves realistic targets. We are, as is being shown today, of one love, two hearts, getting back to that geological stage you have talked about when Africa was physically one. Let us be courageous enough to point out lack of progress where it exists in order to speed up the meeting of our intended goals. With regards to the two working documents before us, namely the political declaration and partnership framework document, it is my humble opinion that these capture the feelings, the sentiments and aspirations of our countries and peoples. They reflect the priorities of the African continent as highlighted in the African Union's Agenda 2063, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. The United Nations, has it really united us? Yes, it has brought us together in a kind of forum where others are giants, some are giants, and others are dwarfs. We are made dwarfs at the United Nations. But why should we accept it? We have India with us, a geological twin to Africa. And India has 1.2 billion people. Now, together, we of Africa and we of India constitute 1/3 of the population of this world. Surely, 1/3 of the population of this world, which at the United Nations is treated as a little kid. We say no. 1/3 of the population of the world must be respected. Its rights must be respected. Its equality must be respected. And that is why we say, let's amend the United Nations so it be the United Equal Nations. We are not that. We are saying, let us amend the Charter of the United Nations. We in Africa, on our part, have discussed this matter again and again, and met in Swaziland, in Ezulwini, that town, where we said we need at least 2 seats in the permanent seats in the Security Council. If the veto is to be retained, although we want it abolished, then let that veto also be in the hands of our 2 permanent members. We will not accept less. And now with India, and India seeking also a permanence in the United Nations, to be represented there as India with a veto, if the veto is to be retained, without the veto, if the veto is to be abolished. We are saying we 3 want equality. Hear us, you who call yourselves permanent members. That organization is defective. It must accept true, genuine, real, genuine equality. We are unequal, and we say no to that inequality. Let us be equal. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by saying that this strategic partnership has a huge potential for both Africa and India, if identified areas are fully implemented. And I know we are all determined that those identified areas will be will be our concern. We emphasize also the need for inclusiveness so that all member states enjoy the benefits offered by our partnership. It is a partnership of two equal continents. But continents are physical. Two equal peoples who recognize each other's benefits, each other's potentials. We saw here our people do their dances. They recognize each other's cultures. They recognize each other's possessions and say, wherever you are as a regional country in Africa, you call yourself Nigeria, you call yourself Guinea, Senegal, you call yourself South Africa, by whatever name, you're African. By whatever name, you are all equal. And in India, whether you are is Gujarat or Punjab, by whatever name, you are Indian. You have the right of self-determination in your country. You of Africa have the right of self-determination in your country. Two continents with peoples have that right of self-determination. Surely, let us determine that as equal people, we can develop together and see our people make progress together and call this world finally their world. It is our world indeed, but let us make it, all of us, as we believe in humanity, as we believe in equality, let us make it the world of equal people. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Mugabe, for your address. May I now request Her Excellency, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, to make her address.
Your Excellency, Mr. Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, Your Excellency, Mr. Robert Gabriel Mugabe, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, and our Chairperson of the African Union, Your Majesties, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Commissioners, Ministers, Heads of Diplomatic Corps, representatives of international and regional organizations, distinguished invitees. I'm very honored to address this third Africa-India Forum Summit and to express our heartfelt gratitude to the Prime Minister, His Excellency Mr. Narendra Modi, and our gracious host, and the government and the people of India for the warm welcome and the legendary hospitality extended to our delegations. We thank the Government of India for all the arrangements to ensure a smooth running of this important gathering in the beautiful and historic city of New Delhi. Africa and India, as has been said, are bound together initially by geography, but by history, by working together in our struggles against colonialism and apartheid, and of course, we are also bound together by the great Mahatma Gandhi, who is shared by both India and Africa, who started his political career in our continent in the southern tip in South Africa. We also cooperate as the two continents of Africa and India in many international fora. We cooperate today in such forums as the Non-Aligned Movement and the G7, 7 plus China. In keeping with this spirit of solidarity and cooperation, our government, the Indian government, since coming into office, underscored the importance of strengthening African and Indian ties and promoting friendship and collaboration, as you rightly indicated in one of the tweets posted prior to this summit. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this summit is being held at a time when Africa has adopted its framework, Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, but also 2015 is a landmark year as the world celebrates the 70th anniversary of the United Nations and 20 years since the Beijing Women's Conference. We also do hope that the United Nations will not celebrate many more decades without correcting the historic injustice, as been expressed, of excluding Africa and India from the Security Council permanent positions. Together, as a global community, we have defined and adopted sustainable development goals so that in the coming 15 years, we decisively deal with poverty, hunger, and underdevelopment. We do hope that there will be similar consensus as we gather later this year in Paris for the Climate Change Conference to tackle yet another global challenge that requires decisive, urgent, and collective action. These global and continental frameworks aim at creating a better world, a world of shared prosperity that protects and looks after the environment, preserves our planet for current and future generations, and a peaceful world with inclusive, democratic, and tolerant societies. We can only create this better world by working together, by building partnerships within a framework of global solidarity, focusing on the needs of our people, especially the poor and the vulnerable, We can only build this world if we build partnerships of mutual respect, benefit, and of win-win situations. Excellencies, the early leaders of India and African independence recognized the importance of investing in our people as the key to development, but also contributing to peace and just societies. I will quote only 3 of them. Mahatma Gandhi said, "If we want to create a real peace in this world, we must start educating children." Jomo Kenyatta said, "You and I must work together to develop our country, to get education for our children, to have doctors, to build roads, to provide all day-to-day essentials." And lastly, I'll quote Nelson Mandela, who said, "Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world." The African continent and India both have an abundance of people and our precious resource. In Africa, we've made progress in moving towards universal basic education, improving vocational training in our university sector, with an emphasis on greater access to science, engineering, maths, and technology, but lots more needs to be done. This, we believe, is critical to an African skills revolution so that we unlock the potential, energy, creativity, and vitality of our young people to help transform our societies faster. Our skills revolution also recognizes that without educating and empowering girls and women, who constitute half of our population, our progress will be much slower. Under the Africa-India Partnership, we have started a program of building more vocational centers, student exchanges, promoting e-learning, but we need to do more to strengthen and expand these programs. Excellencies, we not only share the commitment to education of our people to improve, but we also share the commitment to improve the health of our populations. A healthy population is critical to community and development, and as a contributor to stronger development. Empowerment for women also mean healthier children, families, and communities. Africa and India should therefore continue to cooperate to support and promote strong public health systems, maternal and child health, and to enhance cooperation to make medicines more accessible, including support to pharmaceutical manufacturing in Africa. We both want to transform our agriculture and agro-processing sectors to eliminate hunger and malnutrition and contribute towards global food security, as well as strengthen cooperation through joint business forum. It is true that agriculture is the basis for development. Africa has abundant land, water, and sun, and therefore through the Common African Agriculture Development Program, we seek to increase investments and productivity in agriculture in addition to developing agro-processing and agribusinesses. It is also true that most of the workforce in agriculture are women. During the year 2015, the year of women's empowerment and development towards Africa, we are working with member states so that women can have access to land rights, to capital, to markets, and technology. So it would assist us a lot if we could work hand in hand with India to indeed consign the handheld road to the museum so as to replace them with tillers and other modern technology, which India is already using. Excellencies, India and Africa are both determined to ensure that we industrialize and build manufacturing so that we can eradicate poverty, create shared prosperity, decent jobs and economic opportunities for our people. Despite the global economic slowdown, Africa still offers the best opportunities for investments with guaranteed returns, with a growing and youthful population, rapid urbanization, and a growing middle class. Bilateral trade between Africa and India has grown exponentially, and we could do more in growing investments and creating both multinational and small and medium enterprises in Africa. Africa and India also have our oceans in common as an important part of the resource endowment. In July this year, the AU launched the African Decade of Seas and Oceans with a view to foster continental cooperation on securing livelihoods of coastal and island states, the development of marine transport and building the African shipping industry and protecting our oceans against illegal fishing. Having raised these issues, I would like to thank the Government of India for the bilateral support it has provided to African member states in various domains. We would also like to encourage both Africa and India to build a strong people-to-people relationship through tourism and through exchange of our rich cultural heritage. The people relationship is very important. Governments come and go, the people remain. Before closing my address, I would like to quote Prime Minister Narendra Modi on one of his tweets posted on the 17th of October 2015. He said, stepping up trade ties, particularly in oil and gas sector, strengthening maritime cooperation, and lifting the overall engagement to a new high will be the main agenda of the summit, unquote. This statement is an indication that there is already a new way of thinking towards bringing in more energy and commitment to this partnership. We look forward to the establishment of the monitoring mechanism to help us review implementation of the areas of cooperation. It is our sincere belief that the outcomes of the Third Africa Summit will animate and reinvigorate the Africa-India strategic partnership. But of course, the success of the summit is as good as the implementation of the documents adopted. I thank you, Dhanyavad, and happy birthday to our sister, the only women president, and many more.
Thank you, Excellency.